All right, guys, welcome back to the show where we cut through the noise, challenge the status quo, and talk real talk about life, family, and the world all around us. Today is a special show because I have two of my best friends on here that I've been friends with since getting out of the military. I've grown a lot with them, and Nate's sitting this one out while he's working his butt off. And we have a special co host today, Alex Lange. Thank you, brother, for being here.
Appreciate you,
And
brother.
our big guest today is Hugo Correa, and I am so happy to have him here. He's watched my journey since I've been in the military. I've watched a lot of his journey. And Hugo, to start it off, I'm just going to shoot you with one question. What was that one red pill event or aha moment in your life that brought you down the rabbit hole or just changing your perspective on life?
Um, so for me, I'll go back probably. I think for me, it goes way, way back to not even adulthood, to childhood, right? So I was fortunate enough that, not for good things, let's say it that way, not for good things, I was removed from school. So I was apparently a horrible student, and I was never quiet and never sitting down and always getting into trouble. And the principal was calling my mom almost every day, like, you need to take this child out of here, because if not, we're gonna have, I was probably gonna burn the school down, stuff like that, right? And so my mom started homeschooling us, right? And as I grew up through homeschool, um, my mom and other things, we started realizing a lot of the um the propaganda that the school actually, is putting out there, right? And then as I grew into a teenager, into an adult, um, I was already in that environment, and then I go and I dive deeper into it, and I'm like mind blown. Like, there's no way this is true, right? When I started really doing my own research, and it is not even about, a lot of homeschoolers are about, they have better ratings, they have better this, better that, right? There's a lot of stuff that is out there that is true. I'm not saying that is not it. But when you start realizing what the school environment, the current school system was meant to do, it was one of those things that's like, there's no way I purposefully and willingly gonna put my kids through that. So once I understood that, I was like, there's no way in heaven or earth that my kids will ever go to school. I will do whatever I need to do, whatever that means. If it is, you know, having them home and working at night, whatever it would have been, that's what I was going to do. So that was really the one thing. And from there, of course, it started going to other places and whatnot, but that was the biggest one for me. And I remember this one time my wife had a conversation with with a school teacher, right? And I was not with my wife. She was just talking to this lady, and this lady was telling my wife what, all the things that we were doing wrong for our kids because we were homeschooling them, and how, we're selling it off for failure, whatnot. And then she decides to mention something about, oh, if something were to happen to you, because she's right, she's the one taking pretty much the full front on that. At home, she stays home and she really focuses on that. And the lady was like, well, if something were to happen to you, your kids are going to end up in school. And my wife was like, hold on, you don't know my husband then. You have no idea who my husband is, you know, because if you would knew that, you wouldn't even ask that. Like, I was the biggest proponent for that. And then she was like, yeah, I think I like that idea. Let's go for it and whatnot. And, for me, it was, again, we're not, there's no way, we are not doing anything other than this. And if whatever comes to shove, we will find a way where I'm working at one time, you're working at different times, and we'll shift and we'll make sure that our kids are educated by us, right? So that was really at its core the biggest thing that really got me into. Hold on, there is, and from there it goes further deeper into it, because once you started realizing, then you start asking just a bunch of questions. And when you start asking questions, I just, the floodgates open. That, yeah.
Bro, that's homeschool is the first pill for everybody. I feel like people who homeschool, it is like because you're like, oh, I homeschool, okay, and then you get in groups of other homeschool people, and they're like, bro, are you making your own honey? Are you getting your own honey from this person? Are you going to local farms? Are you making your own sourdough bread? It's like it's a snowball effect because you realize we don't need the system. I feel like that's homeschoolers in general. We're like, dude, we plugged out the system, and then you start realizing like, wow, all these other people who pulled out the plug also, they have all these means and ways of living a budget lifestyle super successfully, like super successfully. I mean, me and Simone, I remember when we were about to have kids, she's like, do you want what kind of schooling do you want to have if we have kids? Said no, I'm a homeschool. That was like right away. She's like, me too, good. It was like a test question for her.
Yeah.
This like, where the fuck she could get me at, and I was like, no, it was homeschooling, and we've had to rebudget 3 times. Like she quit her job to homeschool, which was 85 grand a year. Then of course I got removed from the military or retired, however you want to look at that. Had to rebudget. You're right. It's like, and then we had to rebudget multiple times just to keep homeschooling as our priority. Because I think a lot of us put family first when we're
That's
homeschoolers. It's
right.
like, hey, and then we don't know what their life, their outcome is going to be. So it's like, why would I send them to a public school that's set up for a world today and not set them up for the world that's going to be for them instead? It makes no sense.
This system you speak of, Hugo, you were jumping into it. I love the homeschooling aspect because the system you speak of, Jack, what a lot of misconception is that learning only happens in a school. That's why this topic is shunned because they're like, hey, you're not capable, Hugo, Jack, you're not capable. You don't have the experience necessary to teach because we've put learning in a box with regards to school. And so once you pull that back and you say, okay, what are other avenues like you have done and I have done and Hugo, you've done, what are other avenues that our kids can learn? And once you see that, everything around us is a learning opportunity and our kids benefit from that environment. That's where what I love about this podcast, Dads Against the Narrative, it's really, we don't know what we don't know, but part of this discovery is just having a connection to self, to who we are as people. And so Hugo, for you, that was at an early age in homeschooling. And for us, obviously having kids and getting clear with our partners, that's the direction we want to go. A lot of men, they just need to open their eyes that learning doesn't happen just in schools.
And I was actually gonna touch on that, right? I think that, and I was gonna mention the biggest problem is people equate education with school automatically. That's it. You only are learning or you only get educated if you are in school. And when you break that apart, like Alex said, then you are like, hold on, you can learn anywhere. And you don't necessarily have to have a PhD on whatever to learn. It becomes part of your lifelong journey as a learner, as a student of life, right? It no longer is like I can only learn from this select people because only they have to. And I'm gonna go back to one thing. The biggest thing that really threw my mind for a loop is the question of how did the system we have today started? If you don't know, I'm gonna just go over for like a little piece so you understand, okay? And for I guess for the everyone listening and for whatnot. So the current school system came from Prussia. All right. If you didn't know that, there's a lot of books about this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the book that really got me into it. There's this gentleman called John Taylor Gatto, right? He was one of the best. He won like 5 or 6, 7 top teacher of New York City or of New York, right? Like the best teacher. And he quit saying, I no longer want to hurt children when he quit. So he wrote a book about why, right? Why he believes, even though he was the best, and not one time, many times, right? Why he wrote, I no longer want to hurt children. Because when it come down to it, the purpose of the current school system came from Prussia. The reason was there was this war with Napoleon or defeat by Napoleon. the Battle of Jena in 1806, right? And the Prussians, they had this system where they created soldiers. And those soldiers, they sell them off to whoever was the highest bidder, and they were the best soldiers around. There was nobody better than them, right? So you were, for sure, if you got, I don't know, 1,000 people from it was equal to many more, tens of 10,000s, right? So they always got hired, and then, they fought for other people, right? This was what they did. And suddenly they hire them, and it's like they didn't perform as normal. Like, what happened? Like something is happening here. And essentially, what they found out is they did a research inside of Prussia, and they found that here's a quick quote. The loss had been caused by common soldiers thinking for themselves. A new system had to be reconstructed to end free will initiative among the young. So the whole purpose of the current education system was to end the free will, to end creativity, to make them follow rules, to when I tell you to do something, to be obedient, right? To only understand that this is what you need to do. And if we tell you to do this, that's the only thing you can do. You cannot deviate. Essentially, bring it when they brought it to the United States, it was to create workers, to create people that follow the norm, right? To create people that only work on certain areas, right? And lonely, a lot of people like to say the elite, but right, but have there been people that from the regular school system create great things? Yes, but those are not necessarily everyone, but it was made, right? It was made to shunt you, to keep you with your head down, to put you back into the working environment, to not make you think, to take away your free will, to take away your creativity. And when I think of my family or my kids, that is not a legacy, or that's not something that I wanted to follow. So if I already knew this and I put them into school, it's on me. It's not on them. It's on me knowing that I can do better, knowing the right thing to do and not do it. It will eat me up. Not only eat me up, I will feel like I'm actually purposely putting my kids in the devil's den and just waiting for something to happen. So when you truly understand, and this is just the basis, the first part of the understanding of this portion, right? And then we can go down to the history, but again, understanding where it came from and why they put it in here. And not only that, that the commissioner of education that brought it here, he says something very interesting. Let me see if I find it. The whole point, he's like, this is perfect for what we want to build in here in the States. So I want to build. So he went over, he saw them. He's like, yes, this school system, that is what I want for the state. So let me bring it over, and then he implemented. And there's a bunch of documents where he wrote, and he specifically wrote blind obedience, right, training, right. He wrote the students need to come through this and be like light switches. You turn them on, you turn them off, right? I want them to be almost like a conveyor belt education. Everyone's going to get the same thing. Everyone is going to learn about this. Everyone is going to do this. And again, if there's one quote that kind of sticks to me the most is Albert Einstein's that says, imagination is now I'm drawing a blank, but essentially imagination is greater than education, right? And it's because, yeah, you can be educated, you can know all these things, but if you cannot imagine, if you cannot explore, you cannot try to push those boundaries, then you don't create anything new. Whatever was put in here, that's what you get. That's it.
What's crazy, Hugo, is I mean, a lot of people don't know Rockefeller took that line that I don't want to system full of free thinkers, right? He that from Prussians, but also the U.S. Army comes from a Prussian model of von Baron. I'm not sure if the Navy, Alex would have to tell you. I'm not sure where they came from. Probably somewhere with the rainbow flag. But we don't know where they really came from, the Navy. I think that no one knows that answer.
Here I was about to put you on, and here your dog in the name.
You knew I could have my whole fucking guys. If you don't know, me and Alex were together in a couple projects, so we've worked together many times, and I have to give him a hard time. I couldn't let him slide by being a Navy man. Anyways, no, von Baron was a big proponent of how the U.S. Army is ran these days, and so the Prussian model is very uh, intertwined into the United States models. And the funny part is, and this is a conspiracy show, and as you guys know, I like to be way down in that hole. What were the Prussians really known for? It was the Jewish Prussians that were the most popular. They were the brains, and a lot of people don't know that. And von Baron was a 33rd degree Mason. And if you know anything about the 33-degree Masons or the 33 number, it's all intertwined of today and how it's also set up. So they were long thinkers. They were not short-term thinking. It was all long-term thinking of how they can get to a point of control. And we see that clearly today. And Hugo, what you were mentioning, I mean, if you can't see that today, I mean, it's ridiculous. You see school boards, parents going there and fighting the school boards, and school boards are like, no, we don't care. They're not your children. They're our children. Like, what? What the fuck did we get to? And Alex, you can go ahead and tell how the Navy was started, man. I'm sorry.
No, I want to stay away from the Navy for a second because something that came up for me, Hugo, and I'm gonna put on for my dear friend Jack here. But a long time ago, maybe 2, 3 years ago, there was a conversation that was had. There's a book that I read called The Fatherhood of Art and Leadership. I won't say who wrote it, but there's a book out there, and it talks about deschooling. And I remember having this conversation just because it's very prevalent for myself. And Hugo, you can dive into this more. But when we as fathers choose to dive in with our partners of the homeschooling movement, there's this deschooling process for ourselves. We really learn a lot about ourselves. We have to unlearn how we've thought about learning. We talked about that just a minute ago, but also being open to all these different perspectives and views. And I think that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling, especially with 5 children. I I didn't know a lot. The system sets us up to where we are so disconnected, like Jack was saying with regards to free thinkers with Rockefeller, is once we get one little bit of information, now the avenues that we have, we can dive into that and be like, okay, we're critical thinking for ourselves. We're taking ownership in our families. And that's why people label, I say us as conspiracy theorists, is because we can think for ourselves. We're not, so to speak, blinded. I was watching a movie a couple days ago with my kids, the Thunderbird movie, and they say blind trust. And that's great in certain instances, but they're wanting us to blindly trust majority of the time. And with homeschooling, it's quite the opposite. We're asking for our kids to ask a shit ton of questions and even call us out when we are wrong, so to speak.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You looked at homeschoolers, and you could just see the humbleness in the parenting a lot of times. I'm like I say all the time, folks. I mean, I'm an unschooler, and I've seen unschooling go wild, and it's a whole different ball game. The kids are wild. That's everywhere. That's the public schools, homeschool. We have bad people everywhere that just don't care all the way. But majority of the people, you talk to homeschooling dads, and you're like, fuck, man, it's nice to meet someone who thinks similar to me. It's like, and then you hear them with the humbleness of like, oh, my kid caught me so many times and said, no, dad, you're wrong. It's this way. And the father that I've talked to is normally like, and I agreed. I said, you're right. Because I feel like in public school, the parents are like, they're so detached that they still have this like godplex of like, oh, your parent, I'm your parent, I should know it all. And say, what the fuck are you talking about? No, we're human. This is a human experience together, and we were just lucky enough to have these little kids to come along with us. Have you seen that, Hugo? Where it's like, because you've been homeschooling way longer than all of us. You came through the system of homeschooling. I mean, what's the level of humbleness that like you see on your end?
So, I mean, it, it definitely, so first, kids will always bring out the best and worst on you, right? They will find your triggers. They will find what you thought you already processed, healed, and whatnot, and you're like, but why am I getting so upset? So, like you mentioned, you've got to make sure uh, who would this not be good for, right? Homeschooling. If you have a ton of trauma issues and you're gonna take it back on your kids, put them in school. You know what I mean? You're doing the same, right? But the first thing you gotta realize is you gotta work on yourself. But for example, like you said, I ask my kids to question everything, regardless of what I tell them. And it sounds great, right? And I mentioned this before. My focus is not for my kids to be obedient. It's for my kids to think for themselves, right? Because obedience, essentially, what they always see is somebody that is bigger, stronger, higher, older than me tells me what to do, and I'm just going to do it. That always brings up to things that we don't want to happen, right? Oh, well, he told me to do this, and I just did it, because that's what we do. That's as kids, we obey. No, you need to understand there's certain things that if they ask you, you don't do. It's simple, right? But for that, you need to practice that at home too. And believe me, when my daughter sometimes is like, nah, that's not how that's not how it's done. Even though I know for a fact, give you an example, 1 + 1 is 2. No, I'm gonna show you. Okay. So let's step back, go through your explanation. Maybe you know something that I didn't know. And then if they find something different, you'll be like, okay, all right, I see. I didn't know that. But if by any chance, sometimes as they go through the explanation, that you're like, oh, okay, you realize that we're the same page? Yes. Okay, perfect, good. All right, let's continue. Right? But the whole point is not for you to say, hey, 1 + 1 is 2, and then okay, that's it. Let's not question it. Let's not figure out why. No. Let's go through it. Let's talk about it. My son has done that to me so many times, where I'm like, okay, let's talk, and he refutes it, and I had to first, of course, sometimes a lot of men was like, no, I'm the head of household. You do what as I say, you're gonna do. I'm the one that knows everything. That sometimes comes out. So you gotta breathe, you gotta process, you're like, okay, he's doing what he's supposed to do as a child. Push buttons, figure out what is the limit, figure out how he can learn, right? And not everyone learns the same way. That's one of the things you learn, when you have many more than one child, you realize, you said if you explain it like this to the first one, but the second one is going to be totally different. So you got to figure out, you got to be, you got to be a jack of all trades, master of none. But the saying goes, but better than master of one, right? So you learn a lot, you learn with them. There's stuff that I didn't even know, or I remembered and forgot. And then as we're going through, it's like, oh, that's so cool, right? But then going back to it's allowing them, right? It's giving them the space to be curious about it. No, I want to let's figure it out. And even if it's wrong, again, if it's wrong, allow them to go through the processing, because what you're teaching them is not necessarily to follow, but to go really and think through. Hold on, this is my thought, and I'm going to stick to it. Cool. Walk me through it. Let's see it, right? Express it to me. I want you to verbalize it. I want you to articulate it. Because if you're going to convince anybody, you need to be able to articulate exactly what your point is and why is more valid than mine, right? Or why do you have good points? Give me your points. Show them to me. Let's go through that. And then okay, let's talk about it. These are my points, right? Can we test them? Can we go back and forth, right? And it creates not only for them to think by themselves, but then it creates the dialogue. They learn to talk, and you probably see that with homeschool kids. They talk to everybody, and then suddenly it's like, and everyone says it. Your kids talk to everyone, and they talk so well because they do it at home. This is what we do. We don't just tell them like in school, hey, this is what you got to do, and that's it, nothing else. No, we tell them what they need to do, and they come back and it's like, but I have a better way. Sure, come on, let's walk through it. Tell me more. I want to hear. Show it to me. Let's walk through it. All those things create not only communication skills, process, a process of elimination. This works, this doesn't work, right? Thinking creatively, right? Thinking outside the box. All those things just by asking the right questions and allowing them, again, allowing them to refute you even when you know you might be right.
Isn't it funny how homeschooling, it's like we slow down to ask these questions, and you look at your kids and they may be like the same age. It's like Dustin's in like kindergarten right now, 5 years old. And we have a homeschool online course, and it's like he goes through it and it's like, what the fuck? And we go really slow. We're just like you, but it's like you go slow to teach them, but they're like so much fast forward than the rest, their public school kids, which is so strange in my mind. It's hard to grasp because like some of these programs we go through, I'm like, I don't remember teaching you that. But because his critical thinking and discernment's so profound at his age, he's like, no, I remember doing it with like, I was at the park with my friends and we were climbing a tree and this happened, this happened. I'm like, dude, I don't know how you just tied that together, but I wish I got your life, man. It's like, dude, how'd you do that? Because when I was a kid, it was like right into school and right into like sit down, shut up. And for me, that was not conducive to my lifestyle because I'm a kid who is like super hype, energy, and I just needed to be outside always. I mean, still, you know me as an adult, I'm always outside. I'm outside with them all the time, probably 5 to 6 hours every day. And it's like you lock the kids in a box with these bright ass lights on. How is that going to help them? And most of them check out. Their brains just can't take it. It's too much fucking going on, too much stimulation. And then you're just telling them to shut up. And it's just so strange. I think the conversation's right because when you do that, I know we all three of us have talked about this a lot. It's like it brings that emotional literacy to a whole nother level, emotional regulation to a whole nother level, communication, like you're saying, verbal and nonverbal communication to a whole nother level. And those are the real skills I think kids need at the early age, especially under 7. They don't need to be sitting down and learning. Like we just started that with Destin at 5.5. And it's like, it's still not our priority. Our priority's outdoors. Let's get you outdoors. And then, of course, we have a homeschooling hub here. So he gets to do like art classes, Spanish classes, and those extracurricular things. But yeah, I'm with you 100%. Slowing down, man, and teaching them and having those conversations is so important to kids because you really get into their brain and the way it's working. And I know us three haven't talked a lot since I've been a father of 2 now. But dude, baby 2, you're right. Hugo, he's totally different. This kid, he's like, oh, I'm gonna see how this door opens, and Dustin's like, dude, you just open it. And Rowan's like, fuck that, dude, straight through it. Let's try to knock it through. Like, what are you doing? And the kid's a wild man, and our approach is so different with him than it is with Destin. But still, it always comes back to like talking and hanging out. And he's only 18 months, and it's like to even tell people that you're homeschooling an 18-month-old is like people are like, you can't do that. They're 18 months. They're an idiot child. What are you talking about? Like these kids that when you have homeschooling as your lead ways of teaching, I feel like right out of the birth, it's like your homeschooling day number 2. It's like, all right, we're in it. We're in it, right? It's like because it could be an elimination communication, which I've never met anyone from public schools that's like, oh yeah, I love elimination communication. Teach my kid to potty train before a year and a half old. It's like it's just a different, slower lifestyle, but also kind of busier. Busier because it's like you're always like, let's get them outdoors. Let's get them checking out the world. Let's get to adventuring. Let's get to breaking shit down and tearing it apart and putting it back together. You just never know what you're up to. So yeah, I love that you said that, man. I really do.
I want to hit something there too, Jack. You bring up a good point. Homeschooling is harder. I'm just going to say that. Homeschooling is harder because you take more responsibility in your child's life. It's easy, and I say this, I can see both sides. So whoever's listening to this, I can see both sides, but it's easy to just send your kid to school and then blame someone else for how they show up in the world. We talked about Prussia and their influence on our schooling system with sitting still and memorizing and following authority and waiting for permission to speak and move. And so when your kids come home and they're unloading, a lot of people think that they're just being defiant, but they feel safe around you. And people don't realize that that is a good thing when your kids are unloading on you. And so for you as the adult, the human, the father that's leading the family, you have to know how to diffuse that situation. So parents don't want to homeschool, a lot of them because I've heard before, well, I can't afford to, I have to work. But a lot of it is too, what I've come to realize when I ask a lot of these questions with different men is they don't want the ownership and the responsibility that comes if they don't do it, and I'm doing quote unquote well. You know, it's you have to navigate this landscape of homeschooling. You have to see what works and what doesn't work. And one thing for me, and I'll throw it to you, Hugo, is that I read a book. We have to educate ourselves as fathers on the whatever we're diving into, homeschooling, vaccines, whatever the case may be. But How Children Learn by John Holt is a book that I read, and it talks about the natural cycle of humans learning. Like we come into this world with this natural curiosity around learning. And John Holt, the author of this book, doesn't recommend kids to be in a sit down learning environment until they're 9. Kids don't naturally learn until they're like 9. You know, and that's one thing that a lot of people ask me, well, how did your son, my two oldest is 11 and 9, how do they learn how to read and write? And I said they taught themselves. Like one thing that I can say, I can look at everybody on this camera. I never sat down and taught my son how to read nor write. If they had questions, once again, we ask questions daily. And based off of what they want to learn, we dive into it. Now, Jack mentioned, and I want to hit this, and then I'll throw it to you, Hugo, is with the term unschooling. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, radical unschooling. I'm not a believer of that. Kids do need direction. They do need some type of oversight in regards to how they learn. So when I say unschooling, it doesn't mean we're letting them watch TV and video games and all that, because there is a left wing of that where that's all they do. Kids have 100% say. But there is this coordinated side of homeschooling, what I believe you're talking about and how you were raised, where you have ownership in your learning. And when you have ownership, you have passion. That's the number one thing and what we're trying to do, cultivate in our lives.
So yes, you said the word that I was gonna go and add to it. Um, the version or what we normally focus on is called passion-driven education, right? And it is precisely because of everyone's passion is different. Um, Now, do we sit and do some of the basic stuff like reading, writing, math? Yes, we do, right? We teach them a little bit because those are the things that and most of the time it's like I want to do this. Okay, let's learn how to read. This is how you do it, right? Um, but for example, my son was pretty similar, right? We kind of taught him, and then we kind of and then he was like, oh no, I'm gonna start reading, and he's an excellent reader, like an amazing. So much so, I always make fun of everyone, and or not him, but everyone, because they're like, oh, he's always reading. Yes, if you come home, there is books upon books, and sometimes that is our fight with him because he has a book, he opens a book, and then he's reading it, and then suddenly he leaves it right here, like that, upside down. It's like I left there, right? But then he continues to walk, and then he grabs another book. So next thing you know, when we're cleaning, we have like 20 different books. JJ, grab this book, put it back where it goes, please. And it, that's his downfall. But if that is a downfall, I'll take it every day, any day, right? So much so that we joke again because you want somebody to know and read the instructions. He loves reading the instructions. It's like, yeah, give it to me. He reads the whole instruction, and then all I have to do is say, JJ, tell me what is this about? Oh no, it says here, and apparently this, and you need to do it at this. Even with electronics, with things, he goes through the whole thing and then tells you, you got to put it this hertz, or you got to put it this here and there because apparently this is how it works. It's like, and again, yes, do we put in the basics? Yes, but passion-driven education, unlike unschooling, what a lot of people have connection with unschooling, which is like you just let them do whatever they want, um, and then they'll eventually learn. They will learn something, um, for sure, right? We will learn every day, and again, I want to take that stigma. We learn every day, 24/7. But passion-driven is focusing on what they enjoy, what they really like, right? What do you like? What do you like to do? Okay, and for that, you're going to need to learn how to do this, right? You like to do this? Okay, let's learn how to do this other thing, right? Another thing about not necessarily passion-driven education, but one of the things that I focus to a lot is I want you to think about all the things that you actually need as an adult to not only survive, but to be successful, whatever that might be for everyone, right? And then I'm going to ask you, how many of those things did the school taught you, right? Just to live a normal life, right? Just do that. And then let's bring it back and figure out how many of those things did the school actually taught me? And maybe one or two, maybe, if we're lucky, right? But the things that you actually need, they're not there. So yes, we focus on finance. We focus on, hey, this is how you do laundry. This is how you clean. This is how you do all this stuff, right? Because you're going to be an adult. And those things were never taught to you in school, but finance, we're going to teach you. And actually, in one of my posts, I posted my son had enough money, and it was a random number. It was $13 and something, right? He learned, he has the budget. He got some money. He goes and does grandma's yard. He cuts it every Friday, right? And he gets a certain amount of money and whatnot. He has to separate his money between, savings, spending, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, listen, I have money here, right? Even though it's a little bit, but my wife told him, hey, Costco has done really good for me. And he's like, well, all right, Mama said Costco is good. Then Costco. And I think I posted it where it was like, hey, I won 1350 something. Be invested in Costco. And guess what? I grabbed that money, I win, and I put more than the 1350, but it's the concept, right? You build those habits. It's the habits that I made another post. It's like, show me your habits today, and I will determine your future. Because that's at the end of the day what happens. I don't have to be a mind reader to know what your future is going to be. But if you build proper habits today, and those habits of, you know what, I'm going to grab some money, I'm going to separate it, I'm going to invest in something that I believe, right? And then you invested in it, cool. And then with time, I think he has over $300. And again, little by little, $13, $20 here, invested. And what he put is less than 150 bucks. So again, he realizes, oh, this is growing. It might not be a millionaire, but it is growing.
Bro, I like what you said there about the habits. There's a lot. I'll go back. But the habits, there's, I think I want to say Andy Frisella always says something where it's like, show me the guy's habits and I can tell you what the man's like, right? Give me the list of his habits. I don't want to see a picture or anything, and I could tell you exactly what kind of man he is. And that's another thing that I think a lot of parents, and I'm here, I mean, I'm running the Warrior Kid Club thing that maybe you guys have seen online here. I know me and Alex have talked about it, and I'm teaching these kids discipline and leadership. And one of the things I always ask the fathers, I go, because I have right now all boys. I don't have any girls, and I only have boys, so I'm not a girl dad at all. In my head, I'm always thinking I'm raising a man. Like every single day, that comes in a few times where I'm like, I'm raising a man. What kind of man do I need to be today so he can see that, right? And I say that to the fathers, and they're like, I swear to you guys, man, the guys will go, fuck, I never thought about it like that. Like I'm raising a man. What are you thinking about? But that's the problem. A lot of them are just putting them into public schools, like Alex was saying, and letting them, take the hit. Oh, if my kid shows up like this, well, it's the public school's fault, not mine. And then on the weekends, what are they doing? Drinking and doing all this other bullshit that's not even conducive to their kids' lifestyle, And then one last thing I want to touch on before I shoot over to you, Alex, is you're talking about purpose-driven education, or schooling, or however you want to say that. I love that. And I think also people don't need to pick. Like, this is the thing about homeschooling, folks. We don't all of us probably pick from different things: Montessori, Waldorf, purpose driven, unschooling. It's not, it depends on the day sometimes. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that's totally fine. And that's the thing, is like, there's no right answer. We're just keep trying though. And that's the thing I think a lot of parents that are in public schools do. They stop trying. They fucking stop trying. And it's like, and you guys know how I've said this since like you've met me. I look at fathering as a sport. I've always, since day one, it's been my sport. Someone's like, well, Jack, why don't you have hobbies? I'm like, I do fucking have a hobby. I'm a father. What are you talking about? That's my hobby. My hobby is being a dad. It's fucking being a better dad than all of you out there. That's what I'm trying to do every single day. And when I get to hang out with dads who are fucking badass, I'm like, yes, this feels good. This feels right. This feels aligned with who I am because I'm working my ass off to try to be the best. So when I hang out with the best, I've earned that position. I've earned the position to hang out with dads like you guys because it's like, that's my sport. And yes, do I have other hobbies? Yes, but this is my first hobby. My first hobby is fathering. That means I have to go look at the notebooks. I have to go and take notes. I have to go read books. I have to go look at old films and say, oh, shit, look at me. I look like a fat turd right here. Or look at me the way I'm being too stern or yelling or screaming. Why can't I tone that down a few notches? Why can't I apologize in that situation? How come I can't be more heart driven? Like, how many men aren't talking about that? That's been my whole thing this whole year. It's been heart driven. I went in, and if you guys heard episode 5 with Kyle Carnahan, he wanted to ask me about this. How did I become more heart driven through drugs, through DMT? And it was like a whole thing because I did. And Hugo, you know for sure about the story because I told you guys the day it happened, where like Jesus showed up and then ISIS showed up, and it was all about me being heart centered and me just releasing all of this like built up tension that I didn't know I still had. And I feel like when you talk to dads who really are in the homeschooling game, and I think one of you guys talked on this a little bit earlier, it's like we have to face those inner wounds, those inner child wounds, those wounds that really we didn't even know we fucking had. I mean, this year when I have done now 3 ceremonies with Tepescohuite, and each time I'm like, wow, man, there's so much more heart that I can give. There's so much more love that I can step into first in helping my child. And then come with the toughness, the manliness that he needs also. Because both are important, but I shouldn't just come with the harshness right away and the sternness and the, get in your face and yell at you because I'm triggered. And that's a big thing, man. That's a big pill to swallow. And I don't see it in the public school space parenting as much as I do the homeschooling space. That's just something I thought that's food for thought right there.
You said something. I was trying to unmute. Sorry for that. Anybody's like, what's going on? Why is it just silent? It's because
I
I was
knew
trying
you were
to.
trying to unmute too. I saw it,
I'm
dude.
like, what the hell? Now, you said something beautiful about the heart-led leadership. I had something for you, Hugo, and I lost it. So if it comes back, I'll throw it back to you. But a lot of times when I've coached men, I say, I don't give a fuck about your goals. I care that you move from your heart, especially since I lost my son. Like after I lost Liam, it's about like how are you moving forward with your heart? Because a lot of people that show up in the world, men, let's just talk about fathers, it vibrates out. It radiates to our families. If we're miserable, if we're not happy with how we're showing up in the world, or even following something that we're passionate about, or learning about something that we're passionate about, it radiates to our kids. And so moving from our heart, like you were saying, Jack, once we live in that heart-led leadership space where we're moving from our heart rather than logic and getting too caught up in the external and we can get back to internal, our family thrives on that. I want to throw something into the mix here because we're talking about homeschooling and schooling. If you really think about schooling, it's a gateway industry. It's a gateway industry to trillion-dollar industries. We talked about sitting still, and we're diagnosing young boys like off the charts with ADHD and feeding them pharmaceuticals. And if you think about the foods that public schools are feeding our kids, processed foods, and the beverage companies that you have in there, and then if you think about how schools are going to teaching with regards to more tablet learning and programs online. Now you're talking about the technology and data collection, which has been very big lately. And then obviously, one thing that I've talked about a lot is the college debt. We are training kids to, hey, you need to go to college. And I remember exactly what I was going to say to you, Hugo. He just came to me like that. And the other thing is this, what we're noticing as we're getting older, I shifted my thought there. Now you know I have ADHD, but that's okay. Throw me the medication, right? I love it. Hugo, it just came to me, man, is we, as we're older, we're realizing that we're out of our purpose where we were at, especially you and I, Jack. We were in the military for 13 years. Very similar stories, by the way. I can't make this shit up. We have very similar stories. And we realize that something's missing. We're not in our purpose. We're not fulfilled in our lives. And so we're trying to navigate what's next. With homeschooling, what I love about this is we can just let them dabble in a lot of things and experience a lot of different things. So when they're our age, they're not just, oh, I'm done. I don't know what, I feel lost. I've been in this career for 13 some odd years. Now it's time to switch. They've experienced life and have these habits. We're teaching habits where, once again, all these trillion-dollar industries are keeping these kids disconnected. So when they go to college, they're like, hey, I want to be a finance major. So they go to college to do finance. And then they realize when they graduate, I hate finance. So now I need to go back to college for business management, and the list goes on and on and on. And that is where I love about homeschooling is, and I'm going to speak to a guy that we all know, Greg Denning, like being in front of his family, his kids have these habits and they have these directions at such a young age on where they want to go in the world. They have this connection to a purpose and they understand where they want to go. So that is so beautiful in the sense of homeschooling is we can cultivate that and be involved in that process as fathers. But I just want to throw it to both of you, and I'm done speaking at this moment, is the industries that schooling is a gateway to.
No, I mean, 100% I was going to jump into that one because I had to actually, as part of the things that I wanted to talk about. When you start diving into education and you start the next part, then you realize that the medical industry, and you mentioned Rockefeller, right? He was the one that completely changed our medical industry. If you go in other places, especially in Europe, herbalists are a thing. And you can go to one and they'll prescribe you, or not prescribe you, but they'll give you a bunch of a natural medicine that will help you, right? And you will go to those first. And then if by any chance it didn't work, we're using medicine in this environment as like it's a bandage for everything when and it's not. If you truly want to be healthy, let's talk about health, right? You need to move. You need to sleep better. You need to eat good foods, right? You need to exercise. Are you doing all those things before we do anything else? Are we talking about those things? We're not, right? And he was mainly, and it's funny because in only in the United States, you can't prescribe or give anything to anybody that is not the actual medicine that they're trying to sell you, right? Because it's illegal. You can get in trouble. But anywhere else, it's like, oh, drink this, or do this, try this instead. And it's all natural, right? They had that connection with Mother Earth, and this, they gave us the best thing, and try this and do this, and you'll be better. And talking about habits, that's one of the things that I personally focus on my children. I think you guys all know, at least you guys here, that my son goes with me the moment he turned 13. From that moment on, most gyms allow you to go to the gym. Guess what? Every day he goes, unless he's sick, unless he is really tired, but he goes every day. And regardless of what it is building the habit. He's building the habit that it doesn't matter. And it's not going to the gym and lifting 100 pounds right at the back, right? Or super strong. Is once again the habit of going every day, regardless of what it is. And consistency will get you to where you want to be. Same with like talking about him growing into a man, leading from the heart, which actually I wanted to ask, I think that, we can dive more into there. But what does that mean for a lot of people? Because a lot of people don't even know what is meaning to lead from the heart, or to, act from the heart, or whatever that might sound for a lot of people. A lot of people think is softness or whatnot. So that's a question that I have for you guys, but going back to it's figuring out what you want your kids to be, right? And then how can I support them being that passion driven, purpose driven? For me too, it's a it's a process of me helping them, right? But even me helping them, they can have their own passion, and I can guide them into what I would like for them. And I have actually a whole uh, program based on this. And if you guys never knew about it, the longest study ever made was on happiness by Harvard, right? The longest study, 85 years. And what they found out is that the warmth relationship of those closest to you determine how happy you are. Not IQ, not money, not status, not nothing else. It's just that warmth of the close to you. And when you start really talking about that, it's about our relationship. And then it's how we show as parents. You were talking about our parents. And then we always talk about it's like they won't do what you say they will, what you want them to do. They will do what they see you doing, right? The epic dad says, be wary not that they're not listening to you, but that they're watching, right? And are they watching a good relationship between you and your spouse, or is one that is always fighting and contingent and having all these disagreements and not knowing how to regulate yourself? All those, they see that, and that's what they're now going to take into their next relationship. And they have found, just to break it down real quick, that when they have a good relationship, a healthy relationship, a warm relationship with that person really close to you, not only do they have less mental health issues, they have less illnesses, they make more money, they there's so many other things. And most of the parents is like, want them to be successful, then have a good relationship with them, not only with them, but with their spouse. And when you do that, the goal that you wanted them to have will actually come into fruition. Evidence-based, 85 years of studies. And again, they were amazed to find out the actual results and not what they thought it was going to be.
Bro, you know what's funny is like as you're saying this and the evidence-based happiness, it's like how did this become against the narrative? You know what I mean? And it is because we're so programmed and we're so like it's like as a kid you have this wide open left and right limit, and it just keeps getting narrower and narrower as you get older. Just as Alex is saying, it's like people have to go get education just for one thing, then they don't like that one thing and they have no other skills, so they're like, I have to go back and get another degree. And it's like you're just so narrowed in. And I think that was the plan was to eliminate all resources, eliminate all options, eliminate everything so that you get stuck in the system. As all of us have friends stuck in the system and they're just like, oh man, you're spinning the wheels, they're spinning the wheels. And it's like, dude, do you really think that's living? And that's funny because it's like we've had this, me and Nate have talked this conversation now a bunch of times. It's like it's sad to watch people that are stuck in the system when you're not in the system. And you're like, dude, you just don't know, man. You just don't even realize what life's about. And even in our nightly prayers, I put down the baby now, not Destin. So me and the baby are always doing our prayers. And every single night, I thank God for giving me a life of true purpose and alignment of what He brought me here to do. But I'll tell you what, I don't think many people could say thank you for bringing me here, for letting me work 67 years for some asshole barely getting by, and then I could be free finally at 67 years old to enjoy my last 20 years of life where I'm barely walking, barely able to even move because I chose to eat healthy and live a very unhealthy lifestyle because my mental health was fucked up. I never got to look at my past. I never got to heal my wounds. I never got, it goes on and on. You're like, fuck, dude. So when you guys hear us talking about this and you're like, oh, how's this against the narrative? It's totally against the narrative. Homeschooling is such a little spark that opens up everything. When you go back to homeschooling, you realize, man, you take all the power back. Oh, you know what? My kid gets hurt. Alex was a huge person that I watched. What, 2 years ago, two of your kids got cuts and they needed stitches. I never even knew this. And I went, like, if I didn't know Alex, I would have never known that you just like take seaweed and honey and you could fucking do your own stitches at home. And I was in the medical field for fucking 7 years and I didn't know that. I'm like, it works. He's like, yeah, it fucking works, bro. Like, we take all the power back. My second son's never been to a doctor. He never. I delivered him at home, and it's like, and is it scary? Fuck yeah. all the things that we're talking about aren't easy. You have to have courage to do all of this. And that's why this is against the narrative, because in life, they've taken a lot of our courage away. And we saw that with COVID. We saw how everyone bent their knee or were so fucking happy to roll up their sleeve and be like, oh, give me another shot. It's like, dude, that's not courage. That's just who you were programmed to be. I'm sorry that was your life. Maybe you'll come back next time and you'll have courage. But the homeschooling area and the parents, a lot of them have so much fucking courage. It's unbelievable. Alex showed me the wound of, who was it? One of the girls. I
It
can't
was
remember
it was
now.
Lumi.
Oh,
But
Lumi.
with Lumi, I didn't do Manuka honey and seaweed. With Grayson, his was pretty bad too, but it was in a place where I could do Manuka honey and seaweed. Lumi cut her, she had a stool fall on her head and it split it to her skull. Like you could see her
Yeah,
skull. So I
crazy.
had to go to the hospital on that one. Luckily, well, I would have rather done it myself, first of all, because now going to the public hospital here in Dominican Republic, they just reused the needle. So, you gotta live in a third world country. You have certain things that you just don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, how much courage does that take you to, like, first calm down, get your kid to breathe, slow everything down, the whole nervous system for both of you, probably your
Yeah,
wife too, and maybe the other kids. Like, that's a lot. That just takes a lot of work that a lot of public school parents just have never even done.
yeah.
Homeschool parents we have, and that's courage in itself. And then to be able to apply all this or make the decision to go to urgent care. And I think almost every homeschooler I know, it's like the medical system is secondary. All right, urgent care is there. And yes, I think Western medicine is great for urgent care, for your emergency situations only. Besides that, we have to take care of that at home. So that means we have to learn a new skill. It also means you have to teach your kids to calm down and take care of their own wounds, just like you would a soldier on a battlefield. Who do you address first when you're hit? You address yourself. If your battle buddy's hit, you're not going to take care of him. If you're both hit, you take care of yourself, then you go to the next person. And you have to teach your kids those similar situations. So there's a lot of things in the military that are great that we are able to bring into this fatherhood space or into like just teaching our kids in the homeschool space. But yeah, I really love that courage that you had, Alex, because I'm like, fuck, dude. When you sent me the pictures, I was like, damn,
Dude, it
I don't know
was
what
it
I'll
was
do.
something else. It was something else. You said something, Jack, and I think it goes with what Hugo was saying too, is, especially with homeschooling, it gives you the ability at the very beginning, you said, to slow down. And that is the first thing as fathers and people in general, what we need to do to be able to connect to ourselves. You asked about like what is heart-led leadership? And well, first of all, you need to know what's going on internally. And I think back for me with heart-led leadership, it comes down to there's a tie within integrity. And so I see it in four ways. Our thoughts, what we're thinking, match our emotions matching our words, and our words matching our actions. So moving from a place of a holistic place where our mind, our body, our words, everything is in alignment. I can tell you, hey, I want to do this, whatever case may be, but internally I am like, fuck, I don't want to do this. But it's a lot of men, especially, there's this people pleasing aspect, right? We want to feel valued. So we want to try to fix everybody's problems. So we'll jump at the first opportunity to help someone. We'll try to fix it. It's as simple as our kids or our wife. We're trying to fix their problems. And for us, with regards to heart-led leadership, it's about, okay, how can I move from a place of one? And I'm not saying I'm there 100%. And I know that Jack's not there. I know that Hugo, like, it's an everyday grind to get there. But it's about how do we create the space to slow down, to see what it is that we really want, and then move forward with that. I have told Jack many times this has nothing to do with homeschooling, but the last year when I stepped away from the project they were doing, like I really wanted to do it. Like I really wanted to stay. And something was pulling me away. And so I had to honor that something. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially when we talk about success, is everybody gets we get so caught up into the success. Well, our kids have to be successful, and the only way they're going to be successful is if they go to school. But school doesn't teach us things like that. They don't teach us mindfulness. They don't teach us how to breathe and pause and create this space to think for ourselves. And that's, if you're listening to this, that's what you got to ask yourself as a father. What do you want your legacy and your kids to carry forward? Do you want them to be conditioned by a system that doesn't care about them? It's just teaching them how to fill a role. And when they die, the system's going to keep moving forward. And so that's how people they isolate. I say they isolate us, but fear mongering. When we can see that they're stuck inside of a system, and they can't see it, but the system keeps them stuck inside the system because of the fear mongering. And they hold that over their heads, and so people have this anxiety and the fear takes over. But what if fear was just false evidence appearing real? You know, when you took the step, Jack, when I took the step, Hugo, when you've taken the step, what has come for you? Well, I can tell you for me, it opened my eyes and said, "Holy shit, I've been medicated my whole life." And and with schooling, you know, a lot of people we're talking about happiness. A lot of people don't even know what they want because they're not even taught. Hey, what is it like? Take a second, breathe. And that's one thing I love about Jack. We were talking about this, building this emotional intelligence with our kids and letting them honor the feelings that are coming up and not shunning them because they're little boys. Like, okay, what are you feeling? Oh, anger. That's actually really good. Let's use it in a different way. Or sadness. Okay, well, why are you sad? There's a really great creative way that we can express that in the world. And that's what we're missing as a society. Majority of us, right? There's people that are leading the way like you, like Hugo, like Jack. And that's why it's so hard right now. I'm going to throw it to Jack and Hugo on this, but it's hard for us right now because we are the trailblazers. If you look at how men learn, we emulate the relationship that most masculine relationship we experienced growing up. And our fathers and their fathers, they did great at certain things, but now we're stepping into a different realm to critically think, to lead our own families, not to lead the American dream, so to speak. And a lot of us are doing it for the first time.
Hugo, we always end the show with the guest giving the final word. So I'm going to close out my segment right here and hand it over to you. Little man's trying to break in the door, I think. Anyways, I love what you just said there, Alex. I just want to add one part. Just because we're talking emotions and we're talking internal dialogue with self and we're talking about regulating ourselves, that doesn't take away our masculinity. And I just want to beat that through a lot of men out there. Fathers, you always think it's one or the other. It's not. It is a balance. It is a congruent lifestyle that you are holding both the feminine and masculine. And I know that triggers so many men when you mention feminine energy and they have it. We all have it. That's how we were born. We were born perfectly balanced. And the whole thing to get back there takes a lot of work. It does not mean that we are demasculating you and taking away your manhood. That's nothing what anyone's talking about. It's talking about doing the inner work and getting rid of those inner demons so you can give your kids a better life. And when you do, they're going to see dad as more masculine, as more of a leader, as more of the fucking king that he needed to be from the beginning. And I think that's what you were asking, how I felt when we took that step. That's what it felt like. It felt like for the first time in my life, fuck, I'm a man. I'm a real fucking man. And then over these last few years of like growing together, I felt like I've become a king. And I'm like, fuck, that feels good. And before I was living in such a different world that felt calloused over. And it was just hard to dig out of that hole. And I'll tell you what, it's a big enlightenment period when you go through it and you realize I did the right thing. I did the right work and it feels good, especially for your children. But it is an everyday battle, guys. And don't think that this is like a one-time stop shop where you're just going to go into OXXO or 7-Eleven. Guys who don't live in Mexico don't probably know what OXXO is. So you go in there, just grab your shit and come on out. You know, that's not what it is. You have to do the work daily and you grind every day. But you know what? It's not like it hurts. It's not like it's a painful grind. It's a different type. It's a one that you slow down and you recenter. I always say the father, the husband, he's the center. He's the grounding rod of the fucking family while the wife gets to float and create. She creates life. So she gets to float, and I'm going to stay strong and steady for the family. So that's all I have to say. Alex, thank you for co-hosting with me. I know you'll be back to co-host more. I see this happening. We have 3 months of Nate being gone. So, Hugo, thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate you. Give us the final word, brother.
Well, there's so much more to talk about, some of the subjects, and I don't want to stay here another hour, right? But we definitely could. But I think that what you guys brought up is very important, and I'll probably give my take on it, and then hopefully that's enough to close this. Um, there was a few things mentioned that I probably expand just a little bit. One is masculinity, right? When a lot of people, the problem that we have nowadays is we're consistently looking externally for what masculinity looks like. So you don't even know who you are. Who do you look like? Who are you? What does that define? When you understand, and I'm not going to go into a whole hour of this, but masculinity at its end, it's being able to stay steady, and you said it's steady and consistent through regardless what's happening outside. You are the rock of the family. Yes. And the problem is when we don't deal with our own insecurities and issues, anything that happens to you, all suddenly you start throwing a tantrum, pretty much. Like, I have no idea, you have no idea what that north is for you, right? What does that look like? So when you understand how this works, masculinity and femininity, right? You actually understand what your masculine self looks like. Then you start leading from that. That's one of the things that I'm teaching my son, because my son is a boy. And actually, we go through the steps of becoming from boy to man, right? And all of them were mentioned here: integrity, honesty, honor, right? Leading, not allowing things to move you, being consistent, being steady, create habits that are for somebody with integrity and honor, right? So all those things, if you are a person that anything happens and you get moved and you start bursting out, you are yet to be a man. And that might hurt some people. Cool. But if you don't know how to control your actions, this is the other part, talking about emotions, right? Emotions are to be felt, every single one of them. Your emotions are never wrong, but your actions based on those emotions can be wrong. And when you understand that, you can feel absolutely everything. We want our families, our husbands, our parents, our fathers to be more in tune emotionally, to be more emotionally available. They don't take the time to feel anything. If you don't feel anything, you won't be able to empathize with anybody because you have no idea what you feel. Empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and trying to feel what they feel, right? And that's not rocket science, but if you don't know how you feel, you can never empathize. So if you don't process your own emotions, you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to be there emotionally for your family. But then emotions, lastly, emotions have three steps or three things you can do with emotions, right? One is bottle them, bury them, right? That's what a lot we're taught as men. We're taught to bury them. The problem is this energy. Energy will eventually come out somewhere, right? Sideways, most likely not in the best way. Two is you can channel your emotions. What do you mean by that? We're talking about energy. This is how people, after a heartbreak, they build stuff. They build empires. They channel all that energy, right? Everything that is happening, they point it somewhere, and they focus on it, and they build it. Perfect, great. That is good. I'm not saying that, and there's times for it. There is times for it, right? But the last one really is sitting with those emotions and allowing every single one to be present, welcoming them, adding them, allowing them to process, right? And when you process them and you allow them and you realize you are human and humans are meant to feel, to emote. And when you allow them to be there, that's when you have internal peace. That when you understand that no matter what happens, I can feel whatever is going on, but my actions don't have to be based on those feelings. Because there's things that are going to make you angry, and coming out with rage and hitting everything around you is not the proper time. But understanding this is what I feel, and I want to process my feeling, allowing it to be there because I'm human, but not taking action on it. So when people say manage emotions, for me, sometimes that's a little backwards because you're not managing them. Because if you try to manage them, then you're not allowing them. You're not letting them flow. When you feel, allow them, process them, invite them, find out why, and then figure out, okay, now I can act this way. Because the world around a man, we get bombarded from every direction. Nothing we do is ever right. And if you allow that to dictate your actions because you're feeling a certain way, you just know better than a kid. But if you allow them to feel, I can understand how to feel, that doesn't mean that my integrity and my honor is going to change. My actions are not going to change. I will continue to be that solid, consistent, reliable man that my family need and be present for them. And that's how I'll leave you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hugo, thank you.
The myth, the legend.
Right. And last thing, where can people find you at, bro? That's how we're gonna leave
Well,
them out.
right now, in Instagram is probably what I'm more active right now. Paternal Life, paternal as a father, paternal life coaching, and that's where probably you will find me.
All right. Thank you again for being here, guys. Go check out Hugo. Alex, is absolutely great to be with you, brother, co-hosting together. And
Likewise, brother.
we'll see you guys around. Take it easy.